Hello, it's only me. I'm going to run through with you a short video on lifestyle choices, and we've covered a lot of this in our lessons already, but I just wanted to produce something that maybe you could look at and take away with you at home as well. So we've looked at various parts of lifestyle choices. We're looking at diet, we're looking at your activity level, we're looking at your work, rest and sleep balance. We're looking at things like alcohol and nicotine and how that affects you as well. So let's start with diet. Very simply, the government overall think that men should have 2,500 calories a day and ladies 2,000. Now that depends on your activity level, obviously. If you're a very active person and you run marathons or you go to the gym, you may need to fuel your body further, therefore you'll need more calories. Again, if you had a quite sedentary job, okay, 2,500 calories for a male would maybe too much. If you have too many calories and you don't burn those calories, you'll put on weight. Okay, it's a simple equation: input versus output. If you eat 2,000 calories and you burn 2,000 calories, you'll stay the same weight. If you eat 2,000 calories and you burn 2,500 calories, you're going to lose weight. Okay, it's a very simple equation, so you need to be aware of that. And when we've talked about diet in our lessons, we've talked about having a balanced and a variety of diets. Okay, there are a lot of opinions around all the lifestyle choices. We're not going to say to you what's right and wrong. I'm certainly not going to tell you what you should and shouldn't do. What you should be trying to do, though, however, is get a balanced diet of all nutrients, vitamins, minerals, lots of water, stay hydration. And remember, as I said to you, anything you really add to water can dehydrate you. So tea, coffee, even squash, okay, can dehydrate you or has sugars in it. So it's something to be aware of. In terms of that, some of the negative effects of diet or poor diet can be anorexia. Okay, it can also be obesity, and it can be diseases such as rickets, which aren't really common anymore, scurvy from lack of vitamin C, and osteoporosis, which is a bone deficiency, and this is due to a lack of calcium. And I want you to think about and go away and think about where we get calcium from in our diet. Okay, and I'll leave that up to you to go and find. Anorexia is an eating disorder from basically not being able to put in the food that you require. Now I'm going to talk to you about activity levels. The government has guidelines, which you've seen in our lessons, that 5 to 18-year-olds, which are classified as children, have 1 hour of physical activity every day. So that's 7 times 60-minute sessions per week. Now, a young man asked in one of the lessons, could you add that up? So maybe have 2 hours one day, not so much the other day. Yes, you can, and that will obviously help as well. However, we're looking at consistent, regular exercise, developing a habit, a lifestyle that will help you develop your physical activity levels. Physical activity will obviously have a massive impact on your cardiovascular fitness, your muscular endurance, all the components of fitness that we'll talk about at a later date. As adults, they're looking at 5 times 30 minutes. Okay, 5 times 30 minutes a day. So it's less, okay, but over a week, you still look at a long period of time. So again, that can be physical activity, it can be organised sports, you can be walking with the dog, and there's various examples here behind me, but your physical activity, you need to be active. And we've already talked about the differences between maybe a secretary and a builder. Secretary tends to work behind a desk, okay, and a builder will be quite an active job. So at the two roles, a secretary will be more active, but you can't just make that assumption. You may find that even if a secretary has a very sedentary job, they might be going to the gym every night or morning and working out for a triathlon. The builder could be a really physically hard job during the day, but then goes to the pub for 5 pints and 10 cigarettes. So the jobs are different, and you need to be aware of that, and one is more active than the other, but you can't make an overall judgment until you know the individual in terms of activity levels and sedentary lifestyles in terms of those jobs. Work, rest and sleep balance is something that I think personally we don't do very well as a culture in our country. Lots of people work really hard in terms of physical activity. Lots of people will work and push themselves really hard. I know myself, I've run with injuries when I should be resting. Physios, they curse my name, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who does that. How you rest and how you sleep are incredibly important. Okay, the more active you are, the better your sleep quality will be. And there's lots of apps you can get to monitor that. I've got one on my phone, and that's quite interesting to look at, but it doesn't make me sleep better. It just gives me information to make more informed decisions. On the whole, most people work too hard. Okay, they work too long hours, or they put in too much effort in, and they don't make time to rest. Now, rest is not a case of just doing nothing. Okay, it is a time of relaxation. So it's almost like what I call active rest. So you should be doing things that are different, but you should also be trying to rest the parts of the body that you've been using. So are you getting enough sleep? Are you getting high quality sleep? When you are resting, are you doing something that is promoting your rest? Okay, so are you having hot baths? Are you getting your feet up? Are you stretching in terms of physical activity, that sort of things? Are you getting the balance right between work, rest and sleep? I know as a teacher, and I'm sure I'm not the only teacher in the world who does this, I probably don't get enough sleep. Okay, lots of people in and lots of jobs probably don't get enough sleep. I know a previous Prime Minister before Mrs May said that he was living on 4 to 5 hours sleep. That is just not good enough for your health, both physically, mentally and socially, or emotionally, sorry, instead of mentally. So it's very important that you get your rest. A lack of sleep can lead to something called lethargy. So basically you'll feel tired more, therefore you become more inactive. This can lead to other things like putting on weight and other issues that you may have. So actually, the more active you are, the more energy you create. And we'll talk about serotonin and things like that at a different stage. I'm going to talk to you about alcohol now. And I've mentioned before that basically binge drinking is a massive no-no. Now you're going to make your own decisions in your futures, okay? You know, I'm not going to stand here and tell you what's right and wrong, as I've said before, but the research and the evidence around binge drinking is actually quite scary. So just make sure you're making the right choices when you are, as you're growing, and you are put in situations where maybe alcohol is around. Alcohol is a socially accepted drug in our country, unlike smoking, which I'll talk to you about in a minute. There is still legal ages and there's still legality around that, but I need you to be aware, not just for your GCSE, but also for yourself, that you're aware of the effects alcohol can have on you as a body. Firstly, alcohol can lower your reaction times, which is why drink driving is a massive no-no. Obviously, if you can't react quick enough, then things are going to happen. If you are someone who drinks a lot, you're more than likely going to put on weight. This will make you less mobile due to the excess weight. You get a loss of coordination, okay, you get a loss of concentration. Even the day after, if you've had too much to drink, there will be a huge amount of, there'll be an inability to think clearly and properly. This will have an effect on your job, and bosses may not like that, so something to consider. And it'll also have a huge impact on your aerobic and anaerobic levels of fitness, and there'll be another video or a podcast on that. Some of the major negative effects on health of alcohol include heart failure, increased blood pressure, increased weight, which I've mentioned before, and liver disease or cancer. Now, smoking is very different, I think, for your generation as it was for my generation. When I was at school, you know, the naughty kids, if you like, or the cool kids were smoking and drinking. Okay, I was never into that. Being a sports geek, I was out playing football all the time. I think the culture is different now. I think smoking is frowned upon. There's been a lot of work by the government on to change that. So at the moment, smoking can't really advertise. They've got different packaging on cigarette packets. If you go into shops, supermarkets or petrol stations, you'll see that they're covered up. Okay, they're more difficult to buy. They're also mega expensive. How people afford to smoke is beyond me. And e-cigarettes are similar. Okay, there are still chemicals in a cigarette or e-cigarette that are incredibly dangerous for your human body. So you need to be very, very aware of what you are doing with smoking. Now, unlike alcohol, okay, there are no health benefits to smoking at all. There is some research that a small glass of red wine every now and again is actually beneficial to your body, certainly as an adult. but you need to have a look at that and maybe research that a bit further. But there is no evidence to say that smoking has any benefit on the human body at all. Now, back when smoking was brought in, if you like, back in World War II, it was a different kettle of fish. They were brought in from morale and so forth. That is not the case now. There's more evidence and more research. So please be aware before making decisions about how you are going to live your life. But smoking, and certainly nicotine, which is the part of the cigarette that you become addicted to, can cause major problems, including breathlessness. It reduces the oxygen carrying capacity of the cells within the body. That means it's more difficult to get oxygen to the muscles and our organs for us to function better. So smoking has a major issue, has a major effect, negative effect on how we can, how we live and how our body works. It makes it much harder for our body to work. Okay, some of the major health problems that smoking can cause include strokes, bronchitis, heart disease or angina. It can cause blood clots, emphysema and lung cancer. And as I've mentioned in lessons, heart disease is a massive negative effect of smoking. Now, I'm not going to stand, and say to you that if you smoke, you will die early. We discussed it in lessons. My grandfather smoked for a long time and he died at 82. But as I said to you in the lesson, if he hadn't smoked, would he have lived longer? Would he have had a better quality of life? I watched him pass away, and it was really painful for me as a 16-year-old lad. I signed my first semi-pro contract with a football club. He was one of my biggest supporters, and he never managed to see that. They had to sedate him in such a way because he was in so much pain because of the lung disease he had developed because of smoking, that he never saw that. Okay, he was there, but the sedation they put him on didn't allow that to happen. He could have lived longer. And as we discussed in the lesson, we know people who smoke. They tend to be an older generation, and they're living decent ages, in my opinion. But could they have lived longer? And could they have had a better quality of life? They are all decisions that we just don't know. Again, the evidence and research is saying that they probably would have. And I'll just refer you back again, because I've got to, smoking is a real worry of mine. There are no health benefits to smoking, and the issues that it can cause massively outweigh anything else. Okay, so please be aware if you are considering or if you are a smoker. Okay, but you're going to need this information for your GCSE exam as well.